Hi, you guys. Hi, you guys. It is LVS Mac, and today we are gonna be reacting to some scary animated videos. Scary animated videos. Scary animated videos. Scary animated videos. Okay, we should do the 12.
I'm 24, and this happened 5 years ago when I was 19. I was
Wow.
conducting an online transaction on a site called Alks, which is similar to Craigslist. It's an online app where you can see items being sold by random strangers, and all you have to do is make a call and meet up. I was looking for a cheap sweater for my trip to Japan the following week. After several minutes of scrolling, I came across an ad with exactly what I was looking for. A Korean-style female fur sweater for just 300 pesos, about $6. It was perfect. I had issue with it. The meetup point was at the LRT train station at 8 p.m. because the seller was too busy at work. I decided, what the heck? It's a public place anyway. I called the owner and we had a quick convo. He sounded like a strict guy, but we could meet up. He responded, tonight at 8 p.m. sharp. I said sure. But this recklessness of mine is what I regret the most. I arrived at the meeting place at 7:58 p.m. It was really empty. There was
Yo, can you see?
It was a cold night in November, and I eagerly awaited warming myself with my coat. Honestly, I'm the kind of girl who's comfortable wearing a sweater even when it's hot. I was sitting on a bench when the clock ticked 8 o'clock, when suddenly someone covered half of my face with a scarf with a really strange scent. I fell unconscious. As I woke up, I found myself in a van with 4 guys, my wrists handcuffed behind my back. I asked the man what they wanted and to please let me go. Tears began to fall from my eyes. But then, one of the guys touched my face and said, "It's our first time ever tasting a beautiful girl like you." I kept on crying and shouted, "Please, I want to go home, please."
Tasting, wait, what?
The guy next to me choked me, shouting that I needed to shut up. I tried to resist, but my eyes started to roll back in my head. He stopped, but it was taking a long time for me to catch my breath. I looked out the window and saw a checkpoint lane. For the first time in my life, I was so glad that the authorities had permission to check the van. But the guy next to me reached for a gun, a really big gun. Knowing this was my only chance, I found the strength to shout and cried out, "Officer, please help! They have a gun!" The 2 officers immediately grabbed their guns, one shooting at the tires, the other aiming for the man next to me. The officer shot him in the head. I never thought I'd witness such a thing in my life. One of the officers carried me out of the van, and I passed out moments later. I woke up the next day in a hospital bed. My parents were there, crying and asking me what happened. I told them the truth, that I was buying a sweater online. But I suddenly snapped. I cried and cried, saying, "Please help, please help." Since then, I've had to go to a psychiatrist to recover from mental instability and anxiety, and it should go without saying, but I never ever want to buy anything online.
Yeah,
ever
girl, don't.
again.
Don't. Ooh, I watched these two before.
My parents used to take me to this beach cafe in our town. It had a pool and the cafe was right next to the beach. The family that owned the cafe were my family's close friends, so I spent a lot of my childhood there. The best part about the beach is that when you passed the cafe and the playground, there was a lot of sand and a net for volleyball. As kids, my friends and I would always play there. One ordinary summer night, there was quite a few of us playing in the sand castles and doing other things. All of a sudden, I heard a noise behind me in the bushes, right where the sand ended. I should mention that there were woods around the whole place, but it wasn't deep or anything. I was a brave kid, so I just brushed it off as being a cat or animal of some sort, and continued to play. However, when I looked up at my friends, who were now quiet and staying still, I got the chills. I noticed that all of their eyes had widened. They were staring at me, or rather at whatever was behind me. The shock kicked in, and I felt like I was going to faint. I started shaking. I didn't even want to turn around. But when I felt something cold on the back of my neck, that was the last straw. I started running full speed towards the cafe filled with people, and my friends immediately followed behind me. There were 6 children crying and screaming at the top of our lungs. I remember finally clinging to my mom and crying in her arms. Soon after, the sound of sirens, followed by police cars parked in front, filled the air. When the adults talked to the police, my friends and I were confused. I still didn't know what was behind me, so I asked my oldest friend in the group, who was 10 years old and talking to his dad. It turns out there was this crazy old guy who robbed a lady and stabbed her to death not so far away from here. My friends told me he appeared behind me smiling like a sick clown. He was holding a knife and pressing it against the back of my neck. That must have been the cold thing I felt. From then on, I never stayed far away from the cafe when the sun went down. And thankfully, they caught the guy.
Okay, you guys. This one's kind of scary, so we're gonna skip it. Oh.
Him, but since it was my friend's party, it made sense for me to not know everyone there.
Friends, Ben and Michael, to celebrate Ben's birthday. Ben wanted to go camping and have a bonfire, so we all set up our tents for a fun night. When we set everything up, we talked about the usual teenage boy stuff. Sports, cars, and girls. And figures hid behind him, each looking like a starved child. I screamed in fear, waking my friends, who freaked out when they saw him. Sports, cars, and girls. As the night progressed, Ben began to tell us about a man from our town who was on the run from the police. He said that the man lurked around in the darkness and kidnapped teenage boys. He grabs you by the legs and drags you through the forest while looking for more kids to prey on, Ben said. We all burst out with laughter at how ridiculous it sounded. Nothing like that would ever happen in our town, right? At least, that's what we thought. We all started to feel sleepy and decided to call it a night. During the middle of the night, I got out of my tent to use the bathroom on one of the trees nearby. But when I was done, I could see a man warming his hands on our fire, and 3 small, dark figures hid behind him, each looking like a starved child. I screamed in fear, waking my friends, who freaked out when they saw him. We sprinted out of the forest to warn people about the man, but nobody in town believed us. When it was light outside the next morning, we went back to the forest to collect our gear and go home. Everything was there, but a note was left on the ground. It read, "Grabs you by the legs and drags you," with a smiley face drawn at the end. We alerted the police and never went back to that forest again.
About 10 years ago, when I was 12, I would always go into the nearby woods with my friends for most of the day.
You don't sound like a
We
girl.
left pretty late. Usually I got home before dark, but today I knew I wouldn't make it back, and I already knew my parents would be mad at me. We were walking in a group for a few blocks. Then a couple of my friends split from us to go to their house.
What?
I started to notice that a van kept driving past
That's
us.
why I don't walk home. I have
And
to
then my
walk.
last friend split.
My friend Novea
I had about
lives
5-10
in
minutes
front
left
of
until
me, and
mine.
my other friend
Then I see that
Lee
van again.
live
Then it
like
pulled up
6
right beside me and
inches from
stopped.
me,
The driver rolled down the front
so
window.
I can
And she
ride my
told me that
bike
she can't
pretty
find her son, and
fast.
she's been looking all evening. Then she asked me if I seen him. I looked and I said no. Then she asked me if I wanted to get in her van to help find him. I said no again. I looked forward. Then she asked me, am I sure? I didn't answer and I started to walk faster. Then all of a sudden, there was some guy in her back seat that said, Mr. Fucking Snatcher. I looked at the van for a split second as the woman looked in the back seat and she sped up to park on the side of the street. I started running through yards. I heard the doors open and shut on the van, but I didn't look back until I got home. Nobody followed me. I told my parents and we called the cops. I never missed curfew after that.
We're skipping this one.
Again.
When I was 10 or 11, my cousin and aunt visited us. We had fun throughout the day, and my aunt and cousin decided to sleep at my other aunt's house before leaving early in the morning. After such a fun day, I insisted upon sleeping at my aunt's house too, so I could spend more time with everyone. Later that night, we all fell asleep in the guest room, the only room that was available for us. I woke up suddenly at 5 a.m. I heard my mom and other aunt talking, so I was definitely awake. I saw that my cousin and aunt's things weren't there anymore, so I assumed they'd already left. I was about to fall back asleep. I looked at my left and saw someone sleeping beside me. I was about to hug her, thinking it was my 21-year-old girl cousin. But then I saw her face. She wasn't my cousin at all. She was someone I didn't know. But she looked about the age of my cousin.
Oh,
She wore pajamas and a black shirt, and all I could do was stare at her. She started doing strange things, like stretching her legs up and down, and just focusing on the ceiling. It was all so odd. But feeling tired, I eventually drifted off to sleep like nothing had happened. I woke up at 8 a.m., looking at my left, and she was to my